Rob, can you discuss a bit what you have seen in your cases as a challenge for your clients, particularly those clients who have minor children and realize that they need to work with their ex in raising their kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the easiest answer is that people forget that there's life after divorce. You know, the clients, they come in and they get so focused on the immediate of how to handle the divorce, and they're frustrated with their spouse, and they're not thinking about probably in a couple months after the divorce, their son or daughter is going to have a baseball or a softball game, and they're going to need to coordinate with their ex-spouse on how to get them there and snacks and picking up. And that's going to continue on for the length of the childhood.
1,300 new step families are created each day. 66% of couples with children will break up. The majority of biologically connected families are no longer together. This is why it's so important to get co-parenting correct for you and your children.
We're talking today about parties in a divorce working together after a divorce is finalized. What is co-parenting?
Co-parenting is essentially just the process of you and the mother or the father of your child working together to make sure that you raise a good person, right? And that could be everything from just assisting each other with the child's schooling to something as simple as, hey, I just need some assistance on picking them up.
Does it necessarily entail getting along well with your ex?
It really doesn't always have to involve there being a good symbiotic relationship or parties getting along, if you will. I think a great way to looking at it is you're transitioning from being spouses to now being co-parents, and you both have the same duty, and that is to raise your child to become the best person they can be. You don't necessarily have to like or even get along with the mother or father of your child, and odds are you probably don't, considering you're going through a divorce. But the goal is still going to be the same. And so what it really comes down to is being able to create an effective strategy of where you're able to communicate and make decisions together with the ultimate goal in mind, and that is to do what's in the best interest of your child or children.
Rob, why is getting co-parenting right so important?
Well, because you're going to be co-parenting for years to come. And it doesn't just stop when the child turns 18. It can continue on when they're in college and when they're getting married, when they're raising a family. You're their parent. And so odds are the child's going to call you and mom or dad for advice, and it's just good to have a good relationship, a good co-parenting relationship for those moments. And that's why it's important to get it right the first time and make sure that you're not overlooking certain things that you may not be thinking about in the moment. And that's why having a good attorney to help you with that process is important, because this is the things that we think about. What's life going to be like in 5, 6, 10 years from now with your child? If you have a young child and they haven't started school yet, what's it going to be like when they start school, when they start driving, when they're preparing for college? These are all things that we deal with on a regular basis, and so we account for that you may not be thinking about in this moment, but I can guarantee you will be thinking about it probably pretty soon.
Who gets hurt when parents don't get it right?
It's always the children, right? I mean, I hate to say it, but that's usually what it is. And so the residual effect of the disagreement between the parties always trickles down to the children. And so what children need the most, and I think any child psychologist could tell you this, is that they need structure and they need consistency and they need reliability. And they look to their parents for that. And so if they see that their parents are operating in a strong, reliable, consistent co-parenting relationship, it's going to have strong effects, positive effects on their well-being and their development.
I suppose kids are always taking cues from their parents, and so parents are going to teach them, and we hope that they're not put in the middle.
When there are minor children involved in a family law action, the state of Wisconsin will require a parenting plan. So regardless if you were married or never married, work with your attorney to get it right now. Doing so will help alleviate future conflicts and allow you and the other parent to raise your children together, but separate.
So when parents put together, or with the help of their attorneys, put together an agreement for custody and placement, What does that entail? What are the pieces of that agreement?
Depends on the needs of the parents, of the children, kind of the ages of the children, where they're at in their lives. So we want to make sure that we create a very comprehensive agreement that really just covers everything, right? From the specific days and times that the child's going to be with the parent to the transportation logistics, the specific holiday schedule, as well as some flexibility on maneuvering the agreement as parties get older and move on with their lives, people get new jobs and move, etc. So some of the tools that we look at is just making sure that we have a very rigid yet fluid agreement that covers everything. And a lot of it's going to include stuff that you may not be thinking about right now, but we know you will be thinking about. Other tools, if there's communication issues, things like Our Family Wizard, which is a communication tool base that is fantastic because it allows for parties to communicate very effectively. And it works great for allowing for that communication. Other things is just getting like a shared calendar, right? Maybe even a Google Calendar where the events, school events, sports, activities are put in this calendar so everybody's aware of what's going on in the child's life.
Have you seen clients of yours use these tools in situations where they're not necessarily great at communicating with each other, either by phone or text? Have you seen them be able to effectively use the tools you just described?
Yeah, I have, right? And I think it really comes down to how much are you willing to invest in proper communication. And I know a lot of times it's easier just to pick up your phone and send a quick text message or give a quick phone call or have a quick conversation in the parking lot when you're making the exchange. And I understand that. And most of the time, that's going to be how you communicate. But these tools allow for that additional record keeping, if you will, too. It allows for that additional line of communication that could just make sure that everybody's understanding of what's coming next and being on the same page. We find that a lot of people who use these tools are ones who probably initially had issues with communication or co-parenting skills, and have found that having this resource has actually really helped them grow their co-parenting skills. In fact, what we come across a lot of the times is some of the parents who already believe that they have good co-parenting skills and they get along, which is fantastic. They're already starting from a good place, but they sometimes will overlook it. Like, oh, we communicate really well. We don't need those tools, or oh, we don't have to be super specific in our agreement. We're going to work it out. We have a good relationship now. And unfortunately, sometimes those are the parties who are usually calling us up a couple years later saying, hey, you know, there's this issue, there's that issue. I want to make sure that it's covered, and you know, that's why it's important to get it right the first time, even if you already do have a good co-parenting relationship at that time.
And I suppose those, Our Family Wizard apps, calendars, it's nice to have things in writing. I can imagine verbal communication, even text messages get lost in the shuffle, but to have some sort of documented exchange between the parties can be helpful. So going back to the parenting plan that you were describing, we talk about the terms custody and placement. How are they different? Describe how those two concepts have different meanings.
Sure. Well, it's kind of a high-level look at it, right? Placement is just the physical time the child's with each parent, right? The day-to-day. Custody, though, is the decision-making involved with the child, the school the child goes to, the religion the child might practice, the holidays, the holidays that they'll engage in, things of that sort. So a good way to kind of look at it is placement is physical time with the child, and custody is those major decisions.
When parents put together this parenting plan, the hope being that they don't have to go back to court on a regular basis and revisit it, constantly as the needs of their child changes and the needs of their own world, their lives, their work changes. Is there an ability for parties to work together and make adjustments? Or is it very rigid and inflexible? How can parents work together after their paperwork is finalized?
Right, and so what I like to tell my clients is like, the agreement that you guys have, the parenting plan you guys have is always going to be reviewed as like the fallback, right? This is like the order, if you will, that's enforceable in court. What you guys do with the orders, of course, up to you. And the stronger of a co-parenting relationship you have, probably the better chances are that you guys are going to be able to work with one another and be flexible with the pickup location times and the holiday schedules. If something's going to come up, right? Maybe one year you want to take a trip during a holiday, and you have to work with the other parent to coordinate that. But the agreement's there to make sure that any concerns or confusions about something is covered, that you can always look to the agreement to say, well, if we don't agree on something, well, this is what the default would be. This is what we should go to in case we don't have an agreement. Or we have a question about something. Well, let's see what the agreement says, okay? And that's what the agreement's for, to cover that. But the court's not going to be in your guys' lives forever. They're not going to call you up and check in on you and say, hey, are you following your parenting plan? They're not going to do that. They trust that you guys are going to be able to coordinate it and work through it in the best interest of your child. And when things come to an impasse, then you refer to the parenting plan. That's why it's important to have it be super detailed, but also allow for that flexibility as well, to where you guys can make decisions on your own and not need to always reference it.
Have you ever seen a court penalize or scold parties for having that flexibility, or swapping weekends or switching holidays? Have you ever seen anything like that in your practice?
Oh, you're going to jail if you swap holidays. No, no, not at all. In fact, courts encourage it, right? Because that demonstrates good co-parenting skills. The courts don't want you guys to be back in front of them all the time. They want you guys to be able to work out whatever disagreements or concerns arise. So no, so long as you guys are working within the best interest of your child or children together, no, you're not going to be penalized for flexibility of the agreement. But I would say, though, that if there's a drastic change to the agreement, let's say, for example, you guys are exercising one particular placement schedule and you verbally agree to change it to something much different, then those might be circumstances where it might be worth reaching out and seeing how you can put that into the agreement, incorporate it into the agreement, get it in writing. So that way there won't be any issues or concerns down the road. But for as far as switching weekends or subbing holidays or modifying the transportation logistics, no, you're not going to be penalized, and it's encouraged because it shows good co-parenting styles and tactics.
Don't wait until after the divorce to begin testing your parenting plan. Work with the other spouse to make tweaks and adjustments. Learn how to communicate. Learn how to resolve conflicts, so that when you have your final marital settlement agreement, you have a plan that works.
When do you think it's best that parents going through a divorce or splitting up their relationship start implementing a co-parent plan?
Well, you want to say as soon as possible, right? And I understand that may not be possible right off the bat because of all the emotions and the frustrations running through. The last thing you're thinking about is, maybe getting along with, and I know a lot of people associate co-parenting with getting along, with the other party in order to start developing a co-parenting relationship, co-parenting plan. But it is important to get it started as soon as possible. Ideally, as soon as the divorce has been finalized, the parties have already essentially have a good game plan in place that they can pick up and move with and get moving forward with their lives and their children's lives. So to answer the question directly, yeah, we want to get it started right away, and that's why it's important to have a good attorney there who knows that that's what's important, kind of helps you with that process while you're trying to navigate, some of the emotional and even some of the physical tolls that divorce can take on you.
And so when you say as soon as possible, you're suggesting even test driving it, so to speak, while the divorce is pending?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the moment the divorce starts and you're recognizing that there's going to be a drastic change in just the marital life between you and your spouse and your children, this is when it's a good time to start giving it a test run, like you said, right? Let's see what works, let's see what doesn't work. During the marriage, you might find yourself in situations where there's certain things about the other parent's style that maybe didn't notice or kind of let pass because you guys were still together. But now you may not be willing to have so much leniency, if you will. So it's good to, in the process, to go ahead and start seeing some of the things that you want to see improve, whether it be with yourself or even whether it be with the other party, and then we can work through it. That way, when the divorce is final, there isn't these hanging questions or concerns. Everything's really been test run through, and you're ready to move forward.
Everyone wants their family, their children to grow up in an intact family, in a happy household. With divorce, inevitably, there's going to be changes to that picture. And what we need to keep in focus is that even when the family is changing, even when that perfect, intact household is not a reality, does not mean that the best interests of the children should be lost in that transition. There is an opportunity to have healthy, well-adjusted children brought up post-divorce. Choosing the right attorney to help craft a well-thought-out plan will help avoid future conflict, not just for you and your ex, but most importantly for your children, to protect them against unnecessary conflict after your divorce is over.
Go to sterlinglawyers.com to learn more about our attorneys. Please take the time to like, comment, and share. Subscribe or follow us for weekly family law content. Thank you for watching this video with Attorney Mullen and Attorney Keenan.